Hi, for today's video, we will look into the last sections of your report writing, which is on writing a conclusions and future work. So we will see what actually inside the this section, this chapter on the conclusion and the future works. So conclusion actually are the shorter sections of your thesis. Okay, so they actually there are two purposes actually for these conclusions. First is to summarize and bring together the main area covered in the writing. So in the writing, you have a chapter 1 on introductions. You have discussed about the objective, the scope, and the problem. That is the important part of chapter 1. And you need to summarize it. And then you are talking about the literature review in chapter 2. In chapter 3, you are discussing about the method, the implementation, the phases that you took throughout your research. So you need to bring it together, summarize it in these sections. What have you done? What are the phases that you have gone through in your research? Okay. And then the second purpose is to give a final comment and judgment. This is more to the finding of your research. You have evaluate your development. You have a result. Then you need to discuss the finding. What would you think about the result that you have get? Is it positive? Is it negative? So give your comments. Okay, and then give the suggestions. Based on the result that you have. That is the final comment. Okay, and you also can make this suggestion for improvement. This is for future work based on the limitation, the difficulties, the challenges that you have gone throughout your research. You might have certain limitations that you think you would suggest for future recommendations. So please don't do that. Maybe in the future you can do this in order to reduce the amount of works in the future. Okay, so I would say that for a conclusion, with these kinds of information that you need to discuss, it would be at least 2 pages, at least, because you need a lot to discuss here. You need to summarize your work, you need to give your final thought, you need to give your suggestion, you need to list out what is the challenges, the limitations. I would say at least is 2 pages, yeah, but it should be more. Okay, so this is the purpose, okay, of the conclusion. Why we need this conclusion? Conclusion will clearly state the answer to the main research question or the objective. You have your objective. So in conclusion, you should mention it clearly. You should state it clearly. What is your objective and what is the answer for your objective? For example, your objective is to design a system, a recommended system. So where is the design? So you should give it. Okay, the design can be, you can refer this design in section what, or something like that. Okay, so this design will help in what. Okay, so you discuss your answer for each of your research objective you have. Okay, and then second purpose is to summarize and reflect on the research. This is on the research finding and discussion. You need to discuss the result that you have. If you have done certain testing, functional accuracy or whatsoever. So what is your finding? Okay, what is your conclusions to the result that you have? 3 is to make recommendations for future work. This is based on the limitations that you find out throughout your research. And what would you recommend? Maybe the recommendations can be in the forms of a data. You find out that it is difficult to find a data. Your data is not accurate or your data is not enough. So what would you recommend to the future researcher? Or maybe your own future work. Okay, what would you suggest? Or maybe in terms of the resources, maybe some student are doing a prediction, they might need a huge what do you call that, system requirement. Okay, then what would you suggest if you need to run this kinds of experiment? What would you suggest in terms of the system resources? That could be also your recommendations. Okay, and also the recommendations, some student might need some budget, maybe that a certain research need to have a more powerful system, something like IoT, maybe they need certain budget. So what would you suggest? Okay, it also used to show what new knowledge you have contributed. So this is also important, the significance of your research, the knowledge that you contribute to your research. Yeah. Okay. So there are 5 things you can include. First, you can restating the aim of the study. You can start the conclusion by stating the aim of the study. What is the main purpose of the study? Okay, and then you summarizing the main research finding. Okay, based on the purpose of your study, the problem that you have. This is the purpose of my study. So what is the finding at the end? So is it successful? Is it not successful? Or is it with a limitation? Something like that. Okay, what do you have? It will based on the summarization will be based on the discussions of the result that you obtain. And you need to explain the significance and the contributions of the study, as I mentioned in the previous slide. I think this is the important part as well. In the conclusion, you need to mention what would be the significance of your research finding and the contributions. It can be in forms of the algorithms. Okay, how it actually the algorithms that you implement is useful to others. Maybe you are predicting some, or you do some classification on image using a certain algorithm. So that would be a contributions to the body of knowledge, because you already giving an idea that actually this particular issue or problem can be solved using this algorithm. So that is also a contributions in terms of algorithm that you choose. Okay, and contributions also can be in the forms of design. You are designing, you have a problems, you are designing your web system, your applications. In the design, you have stated some important mechanisms, some important element that should be in the development in order for the development to be successful. For example, what are the input, what are the process, the steps that the development should go through, and what would be the output. So that also can be the contributions of the research, your design. Okay, let's say you are designing a web application for recommending a movie, for example. So you have a design. In order to recommend a movie, you need to have a this and this. The step is A, B, C, D, and the output should be A, B, C, D. So that particular design model is your contributions, because you are giving other people idea in order to do a recommendation system. What should be there? What would be the steps? Okay, to take up. And your contributions also can be in the forms of a literature review. In your literature review, you also have done several comparison. You have read lots of literature review. You have done some comparison on the algorithm. You have done some comparison of the existing system. This will also be a contributions to the body of knowledge. You are giving an idea to other researchers. When they read your report, they know that, oh, okay, for developing these kinds of application, actually there are different existing application that is already there. So what is it? It's in your report. You have stated it. system 1, system B, system C, and system 1 have this functionality, system B have this functionality. So it actually reduces the times for future researcher. That is also kinds of contributions. Next, contributions can be in the forms of applications. You are developing applications, you are developing like a prediction system, you are developing classification system from the Twitter data, from the Facebook data, maybe from the online data, maybe from the respondent, maybe from the industry. So actually that is also a contributions application. You develop the applications maybe for the schools, means that it's contributing to the school community. You are developing the systems for maybe a pharmacist, so it's contributing to that industry as well. So the application itself also a contributions. Okay. You also can state limitations of the current study. Okay, so of course, throughout your study, throughout the research process, you have come across a lot of challenges, a lot of limitation that you find out. When I do this, I cannot because of this. I do this, I cannot because of this. Okay, normally maybe because of your data is too small, it's hard to find your data. Maybe because of your system requirement is not big enough, or maybe because of the respondents of your questionnaire. You doesn't get as much as you like. Maybe you want it to be 100, but you only get a few of them. That is also a limitations. Maybe in forms of the application itself, okay, that you cannot not easily find a way to construct it. So that is also a limitations, and you have to list it down and elaborate further on it. Okay, the limitation will help you actually to make a recommendations for future work. Okay, so recommendation normally come from the limitation that you have. Maybe a limitation is term of algorithm. You have tried out several algorithms, and you sometimes in your work you have tried an algorithm for a prediction or for classifications or for recommendation, and you find out that actually the algorithm doesn't work. Maybe because of data is not suitable for that algorithm, or maybe because of something else. You find out the algorithm doesn't work. So my advice is don't throw that piece of work. Okay, don't think that the work that you have done, algorithm that you have implemented but not successful, is indicating that you failed to do your research. No, that is also a contribution. Okay, so remember, don't throw that piece of work. Any algorithm that you have tried with your data but it doesn't work, it must have justifications. For example, you say that you have tried this algorithm with your data, but the accuracy is not so good. So I want to try another algorithm. Oh, this algorithm, the accuracy is good. So you see, that is also a contribution because you are helping other researcher, a future researcher, to save their time. So they know that, oh, okay, I have this data. Oh, I cannot use this algorithm because the accuracy is low, so I don't waste my time. I don't have to waste my time to implement it. Okay, so based on the suggestion, actually with these kinds of data, I need to implement this algorithm B, for example. So I don't need to waste my time to use the algorithm that didn't give me the good accuracy. Okay, so you see that is also a contributions. Okay, so that you can recommend based on the experiment you did with your I would say, not to say that not so good result algorithm that you implement, that you can make a recommendation in the future to say that implementation of this algorithm would not give a good result. So in the future, using this algorithm, you should have another kinds of data that might be suitable for that particular algorithm, for example. So that can be an algorithm, can be a recommendations in terms of algorithms. Okay. Or your recommendation can be in the forms of the application itself. Maybe you have sent out your application to be tested by a stakeholder, and stakeholders is suggesting you some other functions that might make your application more interesting. So that could be also your future recommendation. So future recommendation can be from your limitation, maybe from your testing as well, and maybe from your stakeholder. You can recommend something based on that. It will be for your own future research, or it may be for other researcher future research. So anything that you do, don't throw that piece of work. Everything is important to be discussed. And the algorithm that you actually do, but it is failed, the accuracy is low. Actually, you can also put it in your analysis to show that you actually have implemented that, but the accuracy is not good. But I have come out with a better algorithm that give better accuracy. Okay, so don't throw that piece of work. Okay, now this is a standard phrase to help you to start with, because writing is also an important part of your research. Okay, even though you can do your research well, your development is tip top, but you still need to write to communicate your research with others. Okay, to present your research to others. So it is important part as well to be able to write a good writing, a good report. Okay, for restating the aims of the study, okay, so you can start, you can say, this is just an idea. You can write your own. This is just an idea. How to start to write conclusions. Okay, you can start with, this study set out to, what it will be your aim. Okay, or these investigations, the aim was to assess, what is it? Okay, or the purpose of the current study was to determine what would be the purpose of the study. Maybe you can start with the problems, yeah, the problem statements that you have. Or the second aim of the study was to investigate, what is it you want to investigate. Okay, and then you want to summarize your main research finding. Okay, this study has identified, what is it, based on your result, what has you identified? Maybe the algorithm has given you better accuracy, or the algorithm has been able to recommend you to the top 3 of movie, for something like that. Okay, or you can write the research has also shown that what maybe other result. Okay, maybe you have other result. Okay, so this is the phrase that will help you to write your research finding in the conclusions. And if you want to explain the significance, okay, the significance of the contribution, you can start with saying the finding will be of interest to a school community, or pharmacists, or the mental health care. Okay, in terms of what? Okay, so the thesis has provided deeper insight into algorithm A, algorithm B, for example. Okay, this is how. This will contribute to the existing knowledge of algorithm X by providing what? Okay, so this is how you write it. And stating limitations. How? Limitations of this study is that, okay, this is straightforward. Okay, the small sample size did not allow for a better predictions, for example. Okay, this study was limited by the absence of what? Maybe expert to review. Okay, maybe you have developed your system, you have completed your system, you have done accuracy test, you have done functionality test, but the limitation is unable to find an expert, maybe of the time constraint, maybe of difficult in this pandemic time. It's hard to find the respondents, for example. Okay, that might be your limitations. Making recommendation. You can start the words with the sentence with the question raised by this study is what? The study should be repeated using more bigger data, or study should be repeated using more algorithm for comparisons. Okay, you can suggest that based on the limitation and challenges that you have come across during the research. Or you can say a more research using control trial is needed too. Maybe you have some focus group or a case study. Maybe you want to talk about recommendations for your case study as well. Okay. Alright, so that is on the conclusion. The important part is you need to write inside your conclusions. So you can start with the aim and aim of your research, and secondly, you can talk about what will be the result for the purpose for that particular aim. Okay, what would the result that you get? And you also can summarize a bit as the introduction and the background of your in conclusions about the overall process from finding the title, the literature review, the methodology, and then the evaluations part. Okay, summarize it as well. And also you need to write the significance and the contributions of your research, as well as the limitations. Okay, talk about the limitations and also recommendations for future researcher. Okay, there's a lot of contributions of your research actually. Okay, as I mentioned, in terms of algorithm, in terms of design, in terms of literature review, the comparison that you have done in your literature review, and in terms of applications. So lots. Okay. The limitations can be also in the forms of scope. Scope of your research is also, you can get an idea from there as well. Okay. All right. So for today's task, for this topic on the conclusion and future recommendations, I have two tasks. Okay, the first task will be to write a page of summary for your research finding. Okay, you can start organize your discussion based on your research question or your objective. Maybe you want to talk about, you want to discuss your finding based on the research objective, or maybe will be based on your evaluations types. Okay, you can do that as well. And at the end, you should add discussion on the significant and the contributions of your study. Yeah? So that is the first task. Okay, you can start by stating the main point of your objective and elaborate that further from there. Okay, you can start from there. Objective 1 is what, objective 2 is what, objective 3 is what. So what is the finding for objective 1? What is the finding for objective 2? What is the finding of objective 3? Okay, you can do that. For task number 2, I want you to write a page of a limitation and future recommendations. List out what are the limitations that you have come across, what are the difficulty, what are the challenges, okay, that you have gone through, and suggest a recommendation for future work. Okay, so the limitations can be in terms of resources. Okay, your system requirement whatsoever, maybe your data whatsoever, participants, maybe the participant for your survey, budget, and also data. Okay, there's a lot more. Okay, this is part of them. There might be a lot more that you think that would be, if I have this, it should be great, but I don't have it. So that is the limitations. Okay, so that is how you find the limitations. Okay, alright. So that is all for the conclusion. That is all the tasks that you need to write in your conclusions. So congratulations. So you are nearly reached to the end of your report writing. We have one more section which is on the abstract writing. After you have complete until your conclusions, the last parts of the writing will be abstract writings. Okay, thank you very much and all the best to you.